The following contains spoilers for Prey. You have been warned. Greetings, fellow mortals. I've always found the Predator franchise to be a fun idea. There's little to criticize about the original movie. It knew what it was. It was a testosterone filled action movie with a terrifying monster. The entire concept for the Predator was great. Its design, arsenal of tools, and strategies were fun to watch. Not to mention that the cast of characters were good and memorable. They weren't given a lot of time to become deep, but they made an impact. It also goes to show that Arnold Schwarzenegger was extremely fortunate with the scripts that he got to be a part of in his time. Predator 2's biggest struggle was that the first Predator film didn't need and or plan for a sequel. The original movie obviously had been intended to be standalone, kind of like Ghostbusters in that sense. I conflate those two movies. Both Ghostbusters 2 and Predator 2 are movies that were made for the sake of continuing a story that didn't need any continuation. In retrospect, those sequels weren't the worst continuations ever made. Predator 2 had a unique setting to fight a predator, interesting characters, a fun plot, and intrigue into the history of the predators as a species. Of course, there's little that I can say for the rest of the Predator franchise that I actually liked. Alien vs. Predator, Predators, and The Predator were all schlock. At best, they're films that you can enjoy the fighting and the gore if you turn your brain off. And that is not a compliment from me. The Predator stands out especially to me with its nonsensical plot, changing of Predator lore, and lack of likable characters. In contrast to the other sequels, Prey comes off as a lot better. Of course, it helps that the bar has been lowered to the point where it is below ground. The first thing about Prey that's better than almost all of the other sequels is the fact that the setting is different. All of the others tried to copy what the first movie did in some way, rewinding the clock and focusing on a group of people with less weaponry was a good idea. I also enjoyed how the Predator had less technology as well. It made me wonder if the hundreds of years had to do with its different equipment or if it limited itself a little bit to fight against foes with less weaponry. Focusing on a Native American / Indigenous people / First Nation tribe was a fun idea too. There's not a lot of films that actually do that. In fact, I don't think that I've experienced much of such cultures in media outside of Westerns, which don't exactly portray Indigenous people in the best light. I think that the last piece of media that focused on them more than a passing plot point that I can think of is Assassin's Creed 3, which is weird because that was a long time ago. I suppose you could say Red Dead Redemption 2 did focus on them a lot, but that wasn't the main focus of the story, so I don't know if I really count that one. I also like the art direction and cinematography. In addition, I thought it was funny that the movie went with the easy punching bag of the French. Considering that this came from the Native American perspective, it makes sense that Europeans weren't portrayed in the best light. There was also the aspects of the main character. Wait, what was her name? Naru? Did they say that in the movie? They should have said that more. Anyway, I do like that Naru was shown to train and fail on multiple occasions. I like that she did grow in skill in the movie. Perhaps a bit to an absurd degree, but it's some type of journey. I wouldn't say that she had any type of character arc though. There wasn't much that I can say that changed about her personality. Of course, I can't say that Naru had much of a personality to begin with. Besides that she wanted to be a hunter, I don't know anything about her as a person. She's rather one-dimensional. I suppose that I can move to the critiques about her. The actress isn't bad. I feel bad for this Amber Midthunder. She's going to be in the Last Airbender Netflix show, so she's doomed. I also feel bad about the fact that this movie didn't do much to show her acting ability. The dialogue was passable at best and didn't give her a way to show her skills. Not to mention that the wardrobe and camera work did nothing to hide the fact that she's a 5'5" woman without that much muscle definition fighting a monster that could tear a tree in half with raw strength alone if it wanted to. God only knows that I know better than to criticize a woman's appearance, but they could have at least given her sleeves or something to make her look a bit stronger. Also, she went through a lot of danger without actually getting seriously hurt. Not to sound like I wanted her to get tossed around and beaten like Lara Croft in the new Tomb Raider games, but they did cast her for an action role. Even Arnold slash Dutch from the first movie got tossed around and beaten like a rag doll by the Predator. Also, he was traumatized by his experience. Nara overlooked seeing dozens of people die, half of whom were people that she cared about from her own tribe. It didn't look like she was fazed at all by the death in the end. The conclusion also makes me question if there is another sequel already in the works. There kind of needs to be. They had to create these unnecessary tie-ins and references to the first few movies, so now I assume that another predator just kills the entire tribe after this in order to get back that pistol. If there's no continuation, then I have to assume that the next thing that happens after Naru is recognized by the tribe is that she's killed by a predator that won't underestimate her like the first one did. So I guess this story is secretly a tragedy? In retrospect, I suppose that Naru cared about all of the death just as much as the audience did. We did want to see the predator kill things. Is that what the film was going for when it gave the characters so little personality, so that we wouldn't be bummed out by all of the death? All I know is that I didn't really care about anyone and had to actively avoid the English version of this movie because I was taken aback by their California accents. Wanting to avoid hearing a character talk isn't exactly a good sign. So I would call Prey a competent enough film. In terms of the Predator franchise and action-led female characters, it was a step in the right direction, that's for sure. Naru definitely isn't a Mary Sue. She struggles, fails, and improves throughout the film, but she doesn't have enough of a personality to stand out as being memorable. I don't think that people will be thinking about Prey or Naru on a regular basis in almost a year's time. At most, people will say, "Remember Prey?" And then you will be like, "Yeah, it was pretty good. We should watch it again." But you never do. That's how it will be for everyone, except for the people that are going to make loving this film their entire online personality. In terms of making the film better, I would actually suggest adding more female characters. Instead of focusing on this defying gender role storyline that doesn't exactly fit in a hunter-gatherer culture without modern conveniences, I would say focus on the conflict between the natives and the French. Show that the battles with the Europeans have left the tribe with an insufficient number of male hunters. As such, female tribe members with hunting skills are recruited. Have Naru be a competent huntress that needs to look out for one other girl that's more klutzy. Show a kind and caring side and then a brutal hunting side to Naru. Show the dynamics between the various characters more. Naru can be more playful and mocking with her brother. Naru can be more motherly to the younger female character. Naru can be hateful towards her French enemies. Naru can be terrified of the predator that storms into one of their fights with the Europeans. Make one of the French characters an actual character that has to learn and work and communicate with the natives in order to survive. The conflict could be three-sided. Naru has to deal with needing meat for her tribe, fighting back the French, and defending herself from the predator. After a long time of the predator tearing both human sides apart, the factions work together. While most of them die, they do manage to kill the predator. They find where the predator stored all of the animals that it had been hunting. Deciding to put an end to the fighting, the French and the natives divide up the game and gain a better understanding of each other. They could decide that there are bigger threats to deal with than each other, like the British. Naru could be in mourning and traumatized over the deaths of her brother and the other female character. As her tribe celebrates her, all she can focus on is the fact that they have no idea of the real danger out there. She sees a few predators collect their brethren's body. Determined to never let this happen again, she starts training the next generation and convinces the tribe to move to a location that will be safer. That's just some ideas to turn a good enough film into a great movie. Characters and personalities are always the most important thing. The more memorable a cast is, the better. They already had the setting down perfectly with the Great Plains, so it really just comes down to fleshing out the personalities and the plot to be more than the bare minimum. Try to remember that these critiques and suggestions aren't being done out of hatred. I, in fact, like the movie. Trust me when I say that you would be able to tell when I hate something. If I can't think of different twists in a story, I don't think that it's good enough to stick in my mind at all, and Prey definitely got more than a few thoughts out of me. Thank you so much for watching. If you like my takes on storytelling, please consider subscribing and liking the video. It would really help me out. Also, remember that I'll be self-publishing my novel, Dance of Frozen Death, at the start of 2023. I hope that you will check it out. I appreciate you. Do not despair.